Shalom, I'm Eddie Chumney of Hebraic Heritage Ministries, and we welcome you to this week's Focus Israel Report. In this week's report, we're going to be sharing with you regarding the makeup of Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's new government coalition. Meeting a May 7th deadline, Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was able to form a new government coalition following the March 17th Israeli elections. There are 120 members in the Israeli Knesset. A majority of at least 61 is needed to form a government. The political parties Kulanu, headed by Moshe Kalin, and Ashkenazi ultra-Orthodox party United Torah Judaism were the first parties to join Netanyahu's government. During the elections, Kulanu ran on the political platform to improve the Israeli economy and in particular bring down the cost of housing. In order to accomplish this objective, Kalon said that the lengthy coalition negotiation process had focused on securing the proper tools to help implement reforms that would not aim to help one sector of Israeli society, but rather the whole society. He said the new government would pursue reforms in housing and the banking sector and would act to close economic gaps. The Israeli economy is in need of reforms, and we in Kulanu, together with the Likud, the Prime Minister and other ministers, understand how to lead these reforms, Collins said. The agreements with Kulanu include the three portfolios given to the party, and they are the Finance Ministry, the Environmental Protection Ministry, and the Construction Ministry. Collin will be the finance minister. In doing so, Kulanu managed to get the Interior Ministry's planning authority, which has power over the housing market, moved to the finance ministry. We got everything we asked for, a spokesman for the party said, saying that the party will control the government organs most relevant to the housing and banking reforms Collin promised during the campaign. Furthermore, the coalition agreement states that a special committee will be formed to advance legislation on housing, which would be headed by a member of Kulanu. Kulanu also received the pledge that the government will work to provide an additional 700 housing units per year to the number of apartments for which people are eligible through the Construction Ministry and the Immigration and Absorption Ministry. It was further stated that the Finance Minister will have the authority to expropriate lands for use in large-scale housing projects in an attempt to encourage construction. Particular emphasis will be given to rehabilitation of neighborhoods in the periphery. Housing tenders will be offered as part of a prior plan to subsidize apartments in periphery areas for young people, and up to 80% of them will be allocated to young couples or single people under the age of 35. The document also said that the number of apartments for public housing and rentals will be expanded. The agreement also stated that once the new government is formed, Kulanu will support a proposal by Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, referred to as the Norwegian Bill, that would allow a Knesset member from a party that has less than 12 Knesset members to resign from the Knesset and serve solely as a minister in the government. Netanyahu praised Cologne, saying, "We promised during the election campaign to lower the cost of housing and the cost of living, to implement a number of reforms, and to continue to improve Israel's economy." Netanyahu said Israel's economy already stands out from those of its allies in the West that are moving downward, while it continues on a path of financial growth. The Prime Minister said that both he and Collin, as well as everyone else who will sit in the emerging government, have the best interest of the public at heart and hope to better the citizens' situation by continuing to grow the economy and letting everyone enjoy the fruits of this growth. The agreement with United Torah Judaism established that the party will be given the roles of Deputy Minister in the Health Ministry, Deputy Minister in the Education Ministry, Chairman of the Science and Technology Committee, and Deputy Chairman of the Knesset. United Torah Judaism head Yaakov Litzman thanked Netanyahu and the Likud's negotiating committee for coming to an agreement, saying that it covered a lot of social items such as issues relating to child care and dental care, Litzman added. There are many more things which included fixing issues that were distorted, he said, referring to the ultra-Orthodox draft law which required ultra-Orthodox yeshiva students to serve in the Israeli military. Besides the known amendments to the equal share of the burden law, the removal of criminal sanctions for yeshiva students who don't serve in the military, and returning child benefits to the original levels. The agreement also said that the new government will protect the ultra-Orthodox public way of life and will bolster the position of the ultra-Orthodox educational institutions. The agreement also said the government will pass an amendment involving the committee for the appointment of rabbinic judges, in which 3 government ministers, 3 Knesset members, 2 from the coalition and 1 from the opposition, and a United Torah Judaism member will sit. According to the agreement, the change to Israel's conversion laws by the previous government, which gave local municipal rabbis power at the expense of the central rabbinate, will be reversed. The position of rabbinical courts will also be protected, and marriage registration will be possible only at religious councils or the local rabbinate. Additionally, the status quo regarding kosher laws will be maintained, and the government will work to include workers from the ultra-Orthodox community in public service. Upon signing the deal with United Torah Judaism, Netanyahu said, "We worked together in the last government for the greater good of the state of Israel. We did big things. We have an opportunity to return to that now. There is a strong will to make things happen." Finally, the agreement between Netanyahu and the political parties Kulanu and United Torah Judaism includes a clause that could facilitate a national unity government with the opposition party Zionist Union at a later date. Next, while there was only about 48 hours remaining until the deadline to present a new government, the ultra-Orthodox Sephardic political party Shas signed an agreement to join Netanyahu's new government coalition. From the agreement, Shas will be in charge of the Ministry of Religious Services. Shas will also control the Ministry of Galilee and Negev Development and the Ministry of the Economy. Shas will also receive another ministry, which will be headed by Yitzhak Cohen, as well as 2 deputy ministerial slots and head of the Knesset Education Committee. One of the deputy ministers will oversee the District Planning Committee that moved from the Interior Ministry to the Treasury. Shas will also have the power to appoint judges to rabbinical courts. After signing the agreement, Shas leader Ari Deri said that he made good on his promise to voters during elections, including the zero value added tax on basic necessities, public housing reform, and increasing the minimum wage. The last party to join Netanyahu's government was Jewish Home. The agreement includes promises to increase funding for soldiers, schools, and settlements, as well as an agreement to push through a bill that would limit foreign funding for nonprofit organizations deemed hostile to Israel. Furthermore, Jewish Home will receive the education, justice, and agricultural portfolios, the right to name a deputy defense minister from its own party, the leadership of the Knesset Constitution, Law, and Justice Committee, and control over the World Zionist Organization's Settlement Division. The agreement also includes an increase of $163 million for the education budget, an allocation of $259 million to raise soldiers' pay during their third year of service, a budget increase for Ariel University in the West Bank, and support for the so-called non-government organization bill. It also includes protection for transportation over the 1967 borders, increased accessibility for special need pupils in schools, and more funding for community groups who move to disadvantaged areas. The head of the Jewish Home political party, Naftali Bennett, will be education minister. Jewish Home Knesset member Arilet Shaked will be justice minister, and Knesset member Yuri Ariel will be agricultural minister. According to the coalition agreement, Jewish Home Cabinet Secretary Avikai Mandelblit will head a special team that will draft a plan to legalize buildings and neighborhoods in the West Bank that were established with government involvement and under the agreement of the state. The team, which will be established within a month of the new government being sworn in, is to submit its outline within 60 days of being formed. The government will be obligated to act to implement the findings of the team. The talk of legalizing the buildings in communities comes after the NGO Regavim presented Knesset members with aerial maps showing 2,026 homes in the West Bank that are in danger of demolition due to anticipated petitions by radical leftist groups. While Jewish Home coalition deal with Likud includes establishing the team to legalize homes, it appears to have made no mention of the Jewish construction freeze and an apparent abandonment of an earlier demand to lift the freeze. The covert freeze on building has reportedly been in place since late 2013 and has continued since then in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, aside from a handful of building announcements in the capital, even as Jewish Home was in the last coalition government and Ariel served as its housing minister. In making the coalition agreement, Netanyahu thanked the Jewish Home Party leader Naftali Bennett for his efforts during the negotiations and throughout these last weeks. He also asserted that Israel would have a strong, stable government. Netanyahu's government now has the minimum of 61 Knesset members. After the elections, it was believed that Israel's foreign minister Avigdor Lieberman's party, Israel Beitenu, would be a member of Netanyahu's government. If so, the government coalition would be 67 members. However, Lieberman chose to not join the government and resigned from his position as foreign minister. Lieberman said that he was opposed to the policies of the new government. He said the coalition does not reflect the position of the national camp. This government has no intention of overthrowing the Palestinian Hamas organization who rules in the Gaza Strip, he said. Furthermore, he said, I am happy that we chose principles and not portfolios. What's being built is not a national camp, but a government that smacks of opportunism. Lieberman lashed out at the disappearance of the nationality bill, which sought to legally define Israel as the nation-state of the Jewish people, and determined that the right to national self-determination in Israel belongs solely to the Jewish people. Lieberman said, someone vetoed the issue and suddenly it's off the agenda. Furthermore, the ink on the governance law has yet to dry, and they are already increasing the number of government ministers and deputy ministers to unlimited amounts. This is unacceptable, Lieberman added. The Israeli government will be expanding the cabinet and increase the number of government ministers from 18 to 22. Lieberman also criticized the coalition deal signed between Likud and United Torah Judaism, which will cancel many of the reforms agreed upon in the last Knesset. Israel Beitenu faction chairman and coalition negotiator Robert Ilatov stated that if Netanyahu did not go back on the agreements he made with the ultra-Orthodox religious parties, then Israel Beitenu would sit in the opposition. The significance of Lieberman's decision is that he and Netanyahu have had a long-standing political partnership which began to fray last year. In October 2012, the two party leaders announced that they would run on a joint ticket in the January 2013 elections as Likud Beitenu. The election victory saw Netanyahu return as prime minister and gave Lieberman the position of Israel's foreign minister. But Lieberman pulled his party out of the partnership in July of last year, and as a result, each party ran on their own separate ticket in the recent March 17th elections. In the March 17th elections, Israel Beitenu won just 6 Knesset seats, and that was down from the 13 that it held in the previous government. According to political analysts, Netanyahu's best bet to ensure his new coalition's survival will be if he can persuade the opposition leader Isaac Herzog to join his government further down the road, perhaps in the role of foreign minister. After announcing his new government, Netanyahu hinted heavily at this possibility. I said, having a government of 61 is a good number, but more than 61 is even better, Netanyahu said. Time is short because we have to form a strong and stable government, and according to Israel Channel 2, Netanyahu desires to expand the government after it is formed, although not at the expense of parties already in his coalition. After signing his coalition agreement with Likud, ultra-Orthodox Sephardic leader from the Shah's political party, Ari Deri, called on Zionist Union leader Isaac Herzog to join a national unity government. In commenting on the newly formed narrow 61-member government coalition, a senior Likud official said, a government of 61 Knesset members is an impossible coalition. Our mission in seeking to form the government was to first of all make deals with the political parties Shah's and Jewish Home and stabilize a 61 Knesset government coalition. Well, that's going to conclude this week's report, where we shared with you the makeup of Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu's new government coalition. Until we do it again, Shalom in Yeshua the Messiah. Amen.